I stand beneath strings of twinkling lights in our restored barn, my wedding dress simple but adorned with local wildflowers that match the centerpieces on each rough-hewn table. The contrast between the celebration I imagined and the reality unfolding before me twists something deep in my chest. My new husband Micah squeezes my hand, his quiet confidence a steady anchor as my family shifts uncomfortably on hay bales, covered with cream-colored quilts. Mother runs her finger along the edge of the farm-to-table appetizer plate, her lips pursed as if sampling something slightly sour. Father checks his watch for the third time in 15 minutes. Only the local farmers and our true friends seem genuinely delighted by the strings of wildflowers, mason jar candles, and the weathered barnwood that tells stories of a century of harvests. The sharp ring of silver against glass cuts through the murmur of conversation. My sister Celeste stands, champagne flute raised, her designer dress probably worth more than our entire reception budget. My stomach tightens as her perfect smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. "To my little sister," she announces, voice carrying across the suddenly quiet barn, who chose mud over Manhattan. A nervous titter ripples through the guests. Micah's hand tightens around mine. "Mayor?" Celeste pauses meaningfully. "Simpler life bring you the contentment that success brings the rest of us." The words land like slaps. Father chuckles, nodding in agreement while Mother arranges her face into what she considers an appropriate wedding smile. Only Harper, my younger sister, watches with a flat, observant expression that misses nothing. Father stands next, champagne sloshing dangerously close to the rim of his glass. To Marley and her. Unique choices. While not the path we envisioned for our daughter, we've learned to accept that she marches to her own drummer. Heat crawls up my neck as whispers ripple through the crowd. Micah's MIT agricultural engineering degree and my master's from Northwestern apparently count for nothing when paired with calloused hands and soil under our fingernails. Something shifts inside me. 5 years of their disapproval crystallizes into a resolve hard as January ground. I rise slowly to my feet, surprised when the barn falls completely silent. "Thank you for those words," I say, my voice steadier than I feel. "Here's to finding out who really stands by you when there's nothing flashy to prove." I see Celeste's smile falter for just a second. Micah stands beside me, his presence solid as an oak. 6 months ago, I walked away from my promising environmental policy position in Chicago. The memory of that family dinner floods back Mother's wine glass, freezing halfway to her lips when I announced my decision to co-run an organic farm with Micah. "It's just a phase," Father had dismissed, not even looking up from cutting his steak. Celeste's laughter still rings in my ears. "Playing farmer until you come to your senses?" Only Harper had asked questions about our actual plans. The divide in our family stands in sharp relief tonight. Celeste with her MBA and investment advisor husband Damien hover near my parents, champagne glasses never empty. They measure worth through stock portfolios and zip codes. Harper moves between groups, caught in the middle but offering me small smiles of support when our eyes meet. I watch the successful family members cluster together, speaking in low voices while glancing at what they call the dirt farmers, Micah's college friends who now run sustainable agricultural projects across 3 states. When the band begins our first dance, Micah pulls me close. His flannel suit feels more right against my skin than any designer tuxedo ever could. "They'll never understand until we show them," I whisper against his shoulder. "With actions, not words," he agrees, his voice low enough for only me to hear. His eyes, intelligent and steady, meet mine. Let's see who's still standing in 5 years. I lean into him, drawing strength from the hands that can both calibrate precision irrigation systems and tenderly transplant seedlings. The genuine joy of our farmer friends contrasts sharply with my family's tight smiles and performative politeness. As we prepare to leave, traditional rice is replaced with a shower of wildflower seeds. My family stands back, unwilling to participate in something so unconventional. But our true friends surround us, tossing the seeds that will bloom next spring into something beautiful and sustaining. Just like us. 6 months later, the gravel crunches beneath our truck tires as we pull into Celeste and Damien's vacation estate. Their sprawling Vermont property gleams in the July sunshine, pristine landscaping, stone pathways, and a mansion that could swallow our farmhouse whole. I smooth my simple linen dress, suddenly conscious of my calloused hands against the fabric. "Ready?" Micah asks, squeezing my fingers. I nod, drawing strength from his steady presence. As ready as facing the firing squad can be. We step from our mud-spattered truck, the peeling logo of Quinlan Organic Farms contrasting sharply with the line of luxury vehicles. Celeste's children, Madison and Tyler, race past without acknowledgement, absorbed in their tablets. The latest models, no doubt. The farmers have arrived. Damien bellows from the expansive patio, raising his glass toward us. His voice carries across the manicured lawn where clusters of guests in summer finery sip champagne. Still playing in the dirt, Micah? Another year closer to bankruptcy? Several guests chuckle. My spine stiffens, but Micah only smiles, unruffled. The dirt's treating us just fine, he replies, his MIT degree and engineering patents invisible beneath his simple button-down shirt and worn jeans. Celeste glides over, her sundress likely costing more than our monthly mortgage. Marley, darling, how charming you look. Her eyes flick dismissively over my handmade jewelry. Very rustic. Thanks, I answer simply, refusing to apologize for who we are. Mother appears, champagne flute balanced delicately between manicured fingers. She air kisses my cheek, then immediately turns to another guest. You simply must see Celeste's new infinity pool, imported Italian tile. Her voice fades as she leads them away without asking a single question about our life. At dinner, Father raises his glass. To Celeste and Damien for hosting us in this magnificent home. When are you two joining the real world? He nods toward us, smile not reaching his eyes. The question hangs in the air like summer humidity. Conversations pause. Actually, I say, voice steadier than I feel, we've been profitable for 2 consecutive years now. Silverware stills against China. We're supplying 12 upscale restaurants in Des Moines and Cedar Rapids, Micah adds. Our custom irrigation system cut costs by 30% this season. A brief silence falls over the table. Something flickers across Damien's face. Surprise? Concern? Speaking of restaurants, he says too loudly, did anyone try that new French place downtown? And just like that, our success evaporates from the conversation like morning dew. Later, near the rose garden, Harper pulls me aside. Her voice drops to a whisper. Something's wrong with Damien's firm. They've canceled 3 family vacations and Celeste hasn't mentioned a promotion in months. I frown. That doesn't sound like Celeste. I know. And last week, I overheard Dad and Damien arguing about guarantees and recovery. It sounded serious. Before I can respond, Harper continues. There's more. Remember that restaurant chain that suddenly backed out of your supply contract? Damien discouraged them. Told them your farm was unreliable. My stomach twists. How do you know? I ran into the owner at a fundraiser. He mentioned it, thought I knew. Anger flares hot in my chest. They've been actively working against us? Look, Harper points discreetly. Across the lawn, Celeste stands near our truck, phone raised, photographing our farm logo. My phone buzzes a text from Chef Laurent. Need to double your heirloom tomato order next week. Best I've found. Harper slips a business card into my hand. My friend Marcus, financial advisor. You might need this. I tuck it into my pocket, questions forming. The patio doors swing open as a man carrying a dessert tray steps out. Chef Antoine from one of Burlington's finest restaurants. Marley, he calls. The woman behind those magnificent strawberries. Everyone, you must try her produce. Life-changing. Heads turn. Celeste's smile freezes. Micah watches quietly from beside the fire pit, a slight curve to his lips as he observes the shifting dynamics. During dessert, I clear my throat. We have some news. Midwest Farming Today is featuring our irrigation system next month. Mother blinks, interest flickering across her face for the first time. A magazine? What sort of circulation does it have? About 200,000 readers, Micah answers. Plus, we've been selected for a USDA research program. Celeste offers congratulations while checking her phone nervously. Conversations shift, guests asking questions about our farm with genuine curiosity. Damien's jaw tightens as he watches his usual audience drift toward us. As twilight falls over the estate, I notice the subtle shift, guests lingering near us instead of Celeste, asking about sustainable farming rather than stock portfolios. Mother actually asks about our crop rotation. Father mentions our farm to his golf partner with something approaching pride. The dirt farmers are suddenly worth listening to. On the drive home, Stars bright above the winding Vermont roads. Micah reaches for my hand. They still don't see us, I say quietly. No, he agrees, but others are beginning to. I watch the darkness between the trees, wondering what else my family might be hiding and what they might do when they discover what we've been concealing all along. 3 years after ups and downs, Mother's voice on the phone carries that artificial brightness that always signals trouble. Just a little family business matter, dear. Tomorrow at 2? The way she says it leaves no room for refusal. Micah and I exchange glances across the kitchen table. 3 years into our marriage, he reads my family's patterns as clearly as I do. We'll be there, I tell her, already feeling the familiar tightness in my shoulders. The next afternoon, we pull into my parents' circular driveway behind Celeste's gleaming Audi. Harper's modest sedan sits almost apologetically beside it. The sight of all 3 siblings summoned at once sends a cold ripple down my spine. Whatever this is, we face it together, Micah says, his hand warm against mine. Inside, the living room has been transformed into something resembling a corporate boardroom. The coffee table sports neat stacks of documents. Father sits at the head, his normally domineering posture diminished. Mother flutters around, offering coffee with the desperate cheer of someone avoiding collapse. Celeste sits straight-backed beside Damien, who wears his investment advisor expression serious with a manufactured undercurrent of compassion. Only Harper looks genuinely uncomfortable, perched on the edge of her chair like she might bolt. So glad you could join us, Father says without rising. The words lack their usual condescension. Something is very wrong. Damien clears his throat, adjusting his tie. We've called this meeting to discuss some family financial restructuring. He slides a folder forward with manicured fingers. Unfortunately, several key investments have experienced temporary liquidity issues. Mother sinks into the sofa, dabbing at the corner of her eye. We might lose the lake house, she whispers. I notice Celeste's designer purse partially tucked beneath her chair, but the diamond on her left hand is conspicuously absent. Her knuckles whiten as she folds her hands in her lap. What exactly does this have to do with us? Micah asks, his voice calm but direct. Father's face tightens. We need to consolidate family assets. Damien pulls out a property assessment with our farm address emblazoned across the top. We've had your land valued at $380,000. He slides the paper toward us like he's offering a generous gift. The paperwork is ready to sign. Celeste leans forward. This is about family, supporting family, Marley. Her practiced speech sounds rehearsed in front of a mirror. When one of us struggles, we all pitch in. What happened to your investments? Micah asks, not touching the document. Father and Damien exchange glances. Market volatility. Damien offers vaguely. Specifically? Micah presses. If you must know, Father says with sudden sharpness, our retirement portfolio was leveraged in a short position against an agricultural technology company that unexpectedly soared. The irony lands with a dull thud in my stomach. They lost money betting against the very industry that supports our livelihood. We need an answer today, Damien adds, tapping his watch. The buyers won't wait. I feel something shift inside me, the same crystallization I felt at our wedding when they humiliated us with their toasts. Looking at their expectant faces, I see the truth. They never expected refusal. In their minds, my farm has always been disposable, a hobby to be abandoned when real life called. We'll need 48 hours to consider our options, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. 5 faces register various stages of shock. Damien's mouth actually drops open. 48 hours? Father repeats like I've suggested something outrageous. Your mother hasn't slept in weeks over this. Mother nods on cue, pressing a tissue to her mouth. 2 days, Micah confirms, standing. We'll call you when we've decided. The drive home passes in tense silence. The moment we pull into our driveway, the phone rings. Our neighbor Frank's voice crackles through the line. Heard some city folks asking about your acreage. Everything okay over there? Before I can respond, another call beeps through. Teresa from the Agricultural Extension Office, just checking in, after hearing rumors. Then Chef Anthony from Harvest Table Restaurant calls to confirm we're still supplying his kitchen next season. The contrast hits me like cold water. My blood family expects us to surrender our dream at their convenience, while the community we've built rallies at the first hint of trouble. After dinner, Micah takes my hand. There's something I need to show you. He leads me to the small office at the back of our barn. From the bottom drawer of the filing cabinet tone I've never seen opened, he removes a key and unlocks a hidden compartment beneath. I've been waiting for the right moment, he says, pulling out a leather portfolio. Inside, I find his MIT diplomas, not copies, but the originals, carefully preserved. Beneath them lie patent certificates, dozens of them, bearing his name. I don't understand, I whisper. I wanted to see how they'd treat us when they thought we had nothing, he says quietly. He opens a sleek laptop I've never seen and enters a complex password. The screen fills with the logo for Verdant Edge Solutions. You founded this? My hands tremble as I scroll through pages of financial reports. 5 years ago. Current valuation, $46 million. We have 28 active patents for precision irrigation systems and soil analytics software being used across 9 states. His voice remains even, but his eyes watch me carefully. Last month we received a USDA grant for $3 million to test drought-resistant crops. Tears fill my eyes as understanding dawns. You knew they'd never see our worth unless we proved it with money? Micah takes my hands, calluses against calluses. I grew up poor, Marley. I know how people like your family think. Worth is measured in dollars, not character. Pain flickers across his face. I wanted to be sure who they really were before revealing what we've built. The tears spill over, not from sadness, but from the stunning clarity of this moment. What do we do now? I ask. We stand our ground, together. His certainty steadies me. We work late into the night. Micah calls Leonard, our attorney, while I organize documentation of every loan we've repaid to my parents, always with interest, always on time. We prepare federal protection paperwork for our research fields. With each document, my wavering resolve hardens, especially after finding evidence of Damien's calls to our restaurant clients, subtly questioning our reliability. Just before midnight, my phone buzzes with Celeste's number. We're coming 2 days later with the buyers, she announces without preamble. Be ready to sign by noon. After I hang up, Micah and I exchange looks across the table covered with papers documenting both our legitimacy and my family's betrayal. Let's prepare the barn for visitors, he says with quiet determination. Leonard arrives early the next morning, reviewing our strategy one final time. His confidence in our position gives me strength. Sometimes silence isn't surrender, he reminds us. It's preparation for the perfect moment. I watch the sunlight spread across our fields, the morning dew catching fire. For 3 years they mocked what we built. Tomorrow, they'll understand exactly what they asked us to sell. 2 days later, the gravel crunches under tires as Celeste's luxury SUV leads 3 other vehicles up our farm driveway. I stand in the barn doorway, watching them approach through morning fog that clings to our fields. My hands, usually dirt-stained, are clean beneath crisp shirt cuffs. Beside me, Micah adjusts his Tiaraire sight that still makes my heart skip. They're bringing reinforcements, I murmur as my parents emerge from the second car, followed by Harper. A teenage girl climbs from Celeste's vehicle, my niece Tiffany, whom I've barely seen in 2 years. Behind them, 2 professionally dressed strangers carry portfolios. One holds a notary stamp. Right on schedule, Leonard says from behind us, his silver hair catching sunlight as he arranges papers on the conference table we've positioned where hay bales usually sit. The polished wood surface looks starkly out of place against weathered barn boards. Damien strides toward us, confidence etched in every step. His smile falters briefly when he spots Leonard. "Morning, Marley," he says, eyes darting to our formal attire, the conference table, the distinguished man now standing beside us. We brought the paperwork to make this as painless as possible. Micah extends his hand. Coffee? Might be good before we discuss Verdant Edge matters. A flicker of confusion crosses Damien's face. My mother approaches, embracing me stiffly while whispering, "Please don't make this difficult, sweetheart." They settle at the table, Damien producing a folder of pre-filled contracts. Post-dated checks peek from between the pages, insultingly small amounts stretched over 5 years. "Let's be quick about this," Father says, glancing at his watch. "The buyers have another property to view this afternoon." Celeste guides Tiffany forward. "Remember how close you two were when she was little? Her college fund is what's at stake, Marley." My mother dabs at invisible tears. 40 years of marriage and we might lose everything. The house where you grew up. Father leans forward, voice dropping. "This is what family does, Marley. We support each other when times get tough." The barn door swings open, revealing a woman in a USDA jacket who nods at Micah. "Just dropping by to check those test field markers," she announces, lingering by the table. Leonard clears his throat, methodically arranging documents before each family member. Harper, who hasn't spoken, slides her chair closer to mine. My mother's eyebrows lift in surprise. A local banker appears in the doorway. "Morning, folks. Just dropping off those loan approval documents you requested, Micah." Leonard stands, smoothing his tie. "This land belongs to Verdant Edge Solutions, incorporated 3 years ago." He slides across documentation showing every parental loan repaid within 18 months of our wedding. Federal research protection makes forced sale impossible under agricultural preservation statutes. Micah speaks quietly. "I founded Verdant Edge before we married. I serve as CEO." Damien's face drains of color as Leonard pushes forward another document. "The agricultural company you shorted last quarter? Verdant Edge Solutions." Each word falls like stone on marble. "Current valuation, $46 million. Damien tugs his collar, Adam's apple bobbing. There must be some mistake. My mother collapses into her chair, turning to father with dawning suspicion. Celeste's perfect composure cracks around the edges, her fingers trembling as she reaches for water. "Did Uncle Damien lose my college money?" Tiffany asks, voice slicing through uncomfortable silence. I stand, feeling taller than I have in decades of family gatherings. We have records of every dismissive comment, every sabotaged business connection. The words flow without anger, just clarity. Every time you called us dirt farmers while Damien was actively undermining our reputation with restaurant clients. Micah places their most recent tax filing on the table. "We became profitable while you were still mocking our hobby farm at Christmas dinner." Harper breaks her silence. "I've known something was wrong for months. The numbers never added up." Leonard gestures to the USDA officer. "The test fields here are part of a $3 million drought-resistant crop program. The government takes interference with research projects quite seriously." Damien's tie hangs loose around his neck now. Father's face reddens with each revelation. Only Celeste still attempts composure, though her eyes dart between her husband and her crumbling parents. I meet each family member's gaze directly. For the first time, none of them looks down at me. "Coffee?" I offer again, my voice steady as the land beneath our feet. Half an hour later, I stand at the head of the conference table, watching Celeste regain her composure after the initial shock. Her designer blouse shows a small coffee stain, the first imperfection I've seen on her in years. "Remember when we used to pick berries at Grandma's farm?" Celeste's voice shifts to a nostalgic softness I haven't heard since childhood. "We were a team then, Marley. We can be again." Mother dabs at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. "My blood pressure has been so high the doctor wanted to hospitalize me last week. The stress is killing me." Her voice catches. "Is that what you want?" Father straightens his shoulders, his silver hair catching the light from the barn windows. "I always saw potential in you, Marley. Why do you think we paid for Northwestern? We invested in you." Damien slides forward a folder with glossy presentation pages. "We can structure a family partnership. Your land provides the collateral. We handle the financial aspects. Everyone wins." The pressure builds as they escalate their tactics. Celeste pulls Tiffany forward, her hand on the teenager's shoulder. "Your niece's future is at stake," Celeste says, her voice breaking perfectly on cue. "Her college fund. Everything we planned for her." "The Grangers have never faced public humiliation," Father adds. 3 generations of respect in this community, gone because you refuse to help your own blood." Mother rises shakily. "If you let this happen, you will never be welcome in my home again." Father leans forward, voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "After all, we sacrificed for you. Your education, your first car, everything you are comes from what we gave you." I feel Micah's steady presence beside me but don't look his way. Instead, I walk slowly around the table, touching each piece of evidence we've arranged. This folder contains every dismissive comment made at holiday gatherings for the past 5 years. I tap a thick blue binder. "Thanksgiving 2022, Dad. You told your golf friends I was wasting my education playing in dirt." I move to the next document. These are the transcripts of calls Damien made to Red Oak Restaurant, Harvest Table, and Prairie Kitchenall telling them our farm was unreliable and too small to fulfill contracts. My finger traces down to printed emails. These are messages Celeste sent to our mutual friends from college, calling our operation a hobby farm and warning them not to invest in our cute little project. Leonard clears his throat and stands, adjusting his bow tie. Mr. Granger, Mrs. Granger, I need to make the financial reality clear. Mr. Granger. Damian Granger has engaged in financial misconduct resulting in the loss of approximately $2.2 million across 17 retirement accounts, including yours. The color drains from Mother's face as Leonard continues. There is a pending SEC investigation that Mr. Granger has not disclosed to this family. He slides forward official, looking documents. Meanwhile, Verdant Edge Solutions has received 3 acquisition offers in the past month alone. The lowest would make Mr. and Mrs. Quinlan multimillionaires. I feel a strange calm settle over me as I finally speak my full truth. Family doesn't show up only when it's convenient, I say, meeting each of their eyes in turn. You don't ask someone to destroy their life for mistakes you mocked them for avoiding. I pick up a jar of soil from our first harvest. The dirt you laughed at? It's now worth more than all your investments combined. Father starts to speak, but I raise my hand. For once, he falls silent. There will be no financial bailout, no land sale. My voice remains steady. Instead, I have contact information for 3 financial counselors who specialize in recovery from investment fraud. I place a business card on the table. I also have the name of a family therapist. Before any further relationship with me, you'll need to complete 6 sessions. I look directly at Celeste. Tiffany's future was your responsibility, not mine. You chose luxury vacations and status symbols while Micah and I reinvested everything into building something sustainable. Father slams his fist down, his face flushing dark red. You ungrateful little after everything we've done for you. Who do you think you are? Mother collapses into genuine tears, not the theatrical kind she normally produces. She looks at Father with something I've never seen before doubt. Damien stands, straightening his tie. I have contacts. I can fix this. The SEC investigation is a misunderstanding. Celeste stares at me, her perfect mask cracking completely as she finally understands what her years of mockery have cost her. The dynamic shifts as Harper rises from her chair and walks deliberately to stand beside me. I want to learn, she says simply. About the farm. About building something real. Tiffany looks up from her phone for the first time. Could I maybe work here sometimes? In summer? The USDA officer who had been quietly observing whistles low. Mrs. Quinlan, that irrigation system prototype is remarkable. The water conservation metrics alone would qualify you for the innovation grant. Leonard smiles slightly. National Sustainable Agriculture magazine wants to feature your story next month. They called this morning. Celeste gathers her purse, eyes downcast. Father helps Mother to her feet, their movements stiff with shock and anger. Damien collects his now useless contracts. They file out without further words, the convoy of expensive cars kicking up dust as they retreat down our long driveway. Only Harper remains, perched on the edge of a chair. Is there a way forward? For me, I mean? I watch my parents' car disappear around the bend, feeling Micah's arm slip around my waist. The harvest always reveals what you've truly been planting all these years, I say quietly. At the present, I shield my eyes against the afternoon sun as 20 agricultural students trail behind me through rows of experimental drought-resistant corn. 6 months since the confrontation with my family, and our farm has transformed into something beyond even my wildest dreams. The irrigation sensors communicate with weather prediction algorithms. I explain, pausing to let them take notes. Reducing water usage by 43% while increasing yield by nearly 17%. A young woman with determined eyes raises her hand. My father says sustainable farming is just liberal propaganda that can't feed real Americans. The words strike a familiar chord. Rachel, right? When she nods, I recognize the look, that hungry hope beneath defensive armor. My family said similar things. Now we're feeding more Americans than their investment portfolios ever did. Behind the students, the contrast tells our story better than words could. Our weathered historic barn, the one my family mocked during our wedding, now stands beside a gleaming laboratory facility with floor-to-ceiling windows. Inside, Micah guides visiting scientists through diagrams of our patented irrigation systems. Later that evening, the barn glows with the same twinkling lights from our wedding day, but everything else has changed. Instead of my family's tight smiles and forced politeness, genuine celebration fills the space. Local farmers who supported us from the beginning raise glasses alongside restaurant owners who built their farm-to-table menus around our produce. To growing what matters, I say, my voice steady as I address the gathering, no trembling hands, no heat crawling up my neck. The confident woman speaking barely resembles the bride who endured her sister's cutting toast years ago. Harper appears at my side, bumping my shoulder affectionately. Her weekend visits to help with farmers' markets have become a welcome constant. "I'm sorry," she says softly, not for the first time, "for staying quiet all those years." "You're here now," I remind her, watching her eyes light up as she describes her fledgling garden design business. My guidance has helped, but the passion is all hers. The conversation shifts when our county supervisor approaches with a plaque recognizing our innovation in agricultural technology. Last month, the governor visited to acknowledge the rural jobs we've created. Neighboring farms now implement our water conservation techniques, transforming the county into what national media has dubbed America's sustainable heartland. Rachel, the student from earlier, finds me near the dessert table. "My parents think farming is for people who couldn't hack it in the real world," she confesses. "We've established a scholarship," I tell her, "for students whose families don't support their agricultural dreams." Her expression equal parts disbelief and hope reminds me why we started hosting community classes and building a network for first-generation farmers. Harper brings news that adds a strange punctuation to our celebration. "Celeste and Damien separated last week," she says, "and Mom and Dad asked if they could visit, to see what you've built." Micah joins us, his hand finding mine. "What do you think?" "Boundaries," I say after a moment. "Clear ones." As guests depart, we walk to the highest point on our property. The setting sun paints golden light across fields stretching toward the horizon green squares of innovative crops spreading like hope across what was once dismissed as worthless dirt. I kneel and scoop rich soil into a mason jar, a small seedling nestled within. My hands, still calloused and work-worn, have never felt more capable. Micah shows me the expansion plans on his tablet drought-resistant crops that could transform farming in climate-vulnerable regions. "Success isn't what they think it is," I say, watching the last light fade. "It's knowing the difference between what grows and what only appears to grow." The farm they mocked has become the foundation for something that may feed millions, and that is a harvest worth every tear.